Hi, I'm Neil Christensen, author of Dark White and Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey, and I'm not in my studio today because it is out there, and out there it is 14 degrees. And even with my little space heater, I cannot make it functional. So, coming from my living room, you're watching another of my sporadic episodes of I'm Reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to. Today we're covering Chapter 20. Chapter 19 ended telling us that Navidson was, for the first time, going to be documenting something without a human presence. He was, for the first time, going to be alone. Chapter 20 opens with the quote, "No one should brave the underworld alone." There have been several chapters in this book that I have told you felt like filler. Unnecessary. Places where there was hardly anything to cover in these chapter-by-chapter synopses. Chapter 20 is the exact opposite. I found myself highlighting almost every line in this chapter, whole pages doused in yellow. It makes it hard to create a brief when I think everything is important. So now, more than ever, I remind you that while the name of this show is I'm Reading House of Leaves so you don't have to, the truth is closer to I'm reading it with you. And if you think you're getting everything there is to get about this book from my synopses, then you're sorely mistaken. That said, I'll do my best to sum it up. On April 1st, Navidson entered the hallways for the last time. He brought with him an enormous amount of equipment, so much that he had to pack it into a trailer and pull it with a bicycle that he also brought with him. Navidson decides that rather than retreading the same course that they'd explored every other time before, i.e., the Great Hall and the Great Staircase, he is going to explore the other hallways. He hops on his bike and starts pedaling straight past the Great Room. He bikes down the corridor for 2 hours. However, with the weight of the equipment in the trailer, he only manages to travel 7 miles. Then, gradually, the pedaling becomes easier and easier. After another hour, he no longer needs to pedal at all. The bike is speeding down an incline, though there are no visual indicators of the hill due to the complete lack of features on the walls and floor. When he finally stops the bike for the night, the odometer reads 163 miles. Now, I say night in quotes because with no sun, no stars, no moon, no anything, there's no way to tell time in the space. It's just a feeling he has of like, this is the time when I need to stop and rest. When he sees the odometer reading 163 miles, Navidson realizes that the exploration is essentially over. He only packed 6 days worth of food and water, and having ridden 163 miles downhill, he recognizes that he's going to have to ride 163 miles back uphill, which is going to take days and days and days. However, the next morning, when he turns around and starts heading back the way he came, he quickly finds himself heading downhill again. Thinking he made a mistake, he turns around and heads back the other direction, only to find himself immediately heading downhill again. Realizing that this is another trick of the hallways, he points himself back towards the direction he believes he came from and starts riding. The bike rolls without need for pedaling, picking up speed as it goes. For the next 4 days, Navidson covers between 240 and 300 miles per day, and on the 5th day, he rides 428 miles in 14 hours. While the surfaces of the walls, floor, and ceiling remain unblemished by any markings, they do not remain the same size. The ceiling fluctuates between low enough that he has to duck in order to fit under them to so high they're impossible to see. The walls, likewise, go from squeezing his shoulders to disappearing from view. Despite rationing, Navidson recognizes that he is running out of food and water, and he is no closer to getting back home. Direction no longer means anything. He has no idea if he's heading towards the exit or away from it. He just rides faster and faster until suddenly he has a sense of some kind of impending danger, a sense of doom, and he purposely rolls the bike, throwing himself and all of his supplies to the ground. His intuition proved insightful as he comes to a stop right at the edge of an enormous cliff face, a drop into absolute black, his legs dangling over the side. Next to him is a small structure with one door and no windows. Inside, he finds an empty space containing only a staircase that neither goes up nor down, but rather sideways into the void. Navidson decides to camp for the night and give his injuries that he acquired during the fall from the bike time to heal. In the morning, he finds that the room has turned and the staircase now starts on the ceiling and juts up into space. He grabs a few supplies from the overturned trailer and packs them into a backpack, leaving the majority of the equipment on the ground with the bike, and then throws the backpack up into the stairs and climbs up himself to see where they go. Unfortunately, as soon as he gets up onto the stairs, the floor, structure, an entire world below him vanishes, along with the bike and the rest of his supplies. With no other choice, he begins to climb. As he does so, the stairs get smaller and smaller, and the walls close tighter and tighter. But the place he came from continues to evaporate behind him, giving him no choice but to keep moving forward. Finally, when the space is so tight he can barely squeeze through, he pushes into a new space that is huge. In the distance, there appears to be another kind of structure. A wall, maybe, with a window looking out of the space. Navidson approaches it cautiously, but finds it is indeed a window, but it doesn't look back into the world, just a different part of this one. Still, Navidson climbs through onto a platform on the other side. However, as soon as he's through, the window, wall, and everything he's come from once again vanishes, leaving him alone on a small platform with nothing but empty void in every direction. Navidson sits on this platform for what could be hours or days. He burns through all of his supplies, all while the platform itself begins to shrink away to nothing. He conducts an experiment with some flares he has. He lights one and lets it go, watching it fall away from him forever without ever reaching a bottom, eventually disappearing into the blackness. He lights another one, lets it go, and it just floats there in front of him, either falling or flying, but at the same rate as him. Then he lights a third and lets it go, and it flies up away from him, straight up, also vanishing into the void. With nowhere to go and nothing else to do, he turns his attention to the only activity left, reading by matchlight. He pulls out the one book he has on him, which we are told is called House of Leaves. However, he has limited matches, and the book is long, 736 pages to be exact. Eventually, he has to burn the pages he's already read to continue reading. Even this strategy ultimately catches up with him, and he has to burn the last page as he's reading it. When that's over, there's nothing left. His supplies are gone. He has no light, no food. The platform is shrunk into nothingness. Navidson is alone in the void, neither floating, flying, or falling, just existing alone, with nothing to see, hear, or touch. Senseless and alone. Eventually, he even loses track of the idea of place and begins pondering the idea of identity. Not where he is, but who he is and who he was. He perseverates on the people he loved, the people he lost. He slowly starts to leave reality, knowing he will never be found, that this is the end, the cold emptiness of this place. He resigns himself to his death. Then, at the very end, there is a light. Not a bright shining light, but a single pixel of blue light so far in the distance it could be mistaken for a hallucination. And that's the end of chapter 20. Chapter 20 is the most effective chapter yet in terms of setting a tone and dragging us, the readers, through the eerie torture that Navidson experiences. Once again, it's straight narrative storytelling. No word from Johnny, no editorial footnotes, at least none worth speaking of. This is one of the most traditional book chapters that this book has had. It's pretty straightforward, other than the normal to House of Leaves page formatting. There's lots of corner text, rotated text, spread out text, and almost empty pages, but we're all used to that by now, right? Story-wise, it's effective and direct and leaves us with a sense of dread and anticipation. But, I'm going to warn you that the goodwill provided by chapter 20 is set on fire when we dive into chapter 21. That's next time on I'm Reading House of Leaves, so you don't have to.